Hello.
Hello.
How you doing?
Oh, I don't know.
You don't.
It might be a stiff drink kind of night.
Oh, one of those days.
Oh man, I feel like I got kicked in the nards by a mule.
Why? What happened?
Just busy. Literally, literally, three times the amount of quantity of work came through this week than normal.
Oh, how do you like that?
Don't.
Not so much.
Well, it's fine. I mean, I got everything done. We actually a few minutes late, but got everything done. A little extra time here and there to get it all done, but it's all done.
Right.
Yeah.
Sweet. So your day was
So,
crappy.
yep, my day was crappy. How about you?
Mine was okay. Just ice cream was on sale.
That's a great thing.
At what's it called? What's it called?
M&M's?
No, no,
No.
it's an actual grocery store.
Oh, Save On,
Save on
Safeway.
Foods. Yeah, Save on Foods.
Yep.
Yeah, they're their own brand
You
of.
get your savings. You get your savings on at Save On.
Maybe. What do you mean on the card?
Well, no, I'm trying to make a play on words and failing miserably. Apparently.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they had their Death by Chocolate was on sale.
Oh no.
Yeah, so that and the uh, Ray and Jerry's or whatever it's called, that ice cream they have,
Yep. Yep.
the
Yep.
the Garcia one with the cherries.
Oh, the Garcia. Oh,
Yeah, those were on sale for
I've had that.
$3.99, I think. So it's pretty good. So I stocked up.
Yay. Then you need some brownies to go with that, and you're all set.
Yeah, or even chocolate chip cookies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's just put me to bed after.
Yeah, no kidding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
cola.
this was the big week for news for the Marvel movies. Did
Yes.
you manage to check any articles or anything? Or
Well, I kind of thought about it and I went, well, we don't usually do that. I don't usually look at the articles because as soon as I look at it, then I kind of know what the story's about.
yep,
But from what you told me yesterday,
yes.
um, well, you might as well say it again. That way that everyone knows what we're talking about.
Okay, so I'll keep it brief because everybody knows what's going on with this story. It's the top trending thing on Twitter. But Marvel and well, not Marvel Studios specific, but Disney owns Marvel Studios. So Disney and Fox, not Fox, sorry, Disney and Sony have an arrangement for the use of Spider-Man and the actor and all that stuff between the Sony side of business and the Marvel side of business. So they're allowed to use the character, the actor, the likeness, all that stuff. Marvel can use them in their movies, and Sony can use them in their movies. So it's a joint custody agreement, I guess, in a way. So Spider-Man gets to spend weekends in the Marvel universe and spends the week with Sony with mommy.
Now you're saying Spider-Man. Now, Spider-Man originally was owned by who?
Well,
Before any of
Marvel.
this. Okay, Marvel. Okay.
Well, yeah, it's owned by Marvel. But Marvel in the 70s, 80s, all that stuff, they always struggled financially. So they would license their character out to different places, and they could do whatever they wanted with it, but they paid a fee for that. So, they'd license them out to like Hostess Twinkies
Yeah, like
or
lunch boxes and stuff.
lunch. Well, that licensing they made. Well, yeah, pretty much that's kind of how it worked.
Action
But
figures.
they kind of gave carte blanche a little bit to a lot of companies because I mean they're always struggling financially, just some bad management of funds.
Right.
So when the movies came around, they licensed them that way as well, and so Marvel hasn't had the rights Marvel didn't even have a movie studio till like 10 years ago or 12 years ago, whatever it is now.
Mm-hmm.
So they couldn't even make their own movies. But now they have their own movie studio, but everything was licensed out to everybody and their dog. So the only movies they started making were the ones that they hadn't licensed out. Did I lose you, or does that make sense?
So they've so basically all Marvel's doing is selling a license. They're selling a license to Sony. They're selling a license to Disney. They're selling a license to whoever wants to use Spider-Man.
Right. That's what they were doing before with all of the characters, or a lot of the characters.
Right. But now,
so Spider-Man has been with Sony for a dog's age. It's jumped studios a bunch of times, but that's a whole other podcast there. But needless to say, Spider-Man has been in development hell for a long time until they finally made a movie in 2002.
Yeah.
And
really good movie.
It's been with Sony since that time, or just before that time. So Sony doesn't want to give up the character to Marvel. They want to make movies. They know Spider-Man brings in a lot of money.
But they don't own. How can they even put their 2 cents in? I mean, that's like if I went to Long and McQuaid, or if I went to another music store and says, well, we sell Fender. Oh, well, we sell Fender too, but we don't want you guys to sell it anymore. Who are you? Like, we deal with Fender. We don't deal with your company, like these 2 separate companies. So that's what all this infighting is for?
Well, kind of. Actually, it's an interesting take on it. So basically the idea is Spider-Man is made in the comics. So that's your Fender original.
Right.
Spider-Man in the comics. That's your Fender original.
Okay.
But, say Hasbro wants to make a guitar, a kid guitar,
right.
And they're going to call it a Fender. And they have the right to call it a Fender because it was licensed out to them. So they have the ability to use it. But the way Marvel did it is Marvel doesn't make guitars, per se.
Right.
They make comic books, and that's all they make. So if someone else is going to make a different version of Spider-Man,
like a movie,
so in film,
right,
or action figures or whatever, they don't have their own studio to do that, or
right.
their own production company to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So they give the license to another company to do that for them. But I don't think they ever negotiated those contracts very well because there has always been a lack of quality. So when they gave the movie rights up, the movie studio could kind of do whatever they wanted with that property. They weren't.
Well, I mean,
there wasn't a right of refusal thing. So basically, if you had Hasbro making a Marshall guitar,
yeah,
Marshall could say, it's not good enough. Go back, make it again, and make it better. Marshall would probably, say they have the right of the first right of refusal. It's not good enough. Go back and make it again.
right.
But Marvel didn't really have that right, or they didn't exercise that right. So that's why we've had, some subpar Spider-Man movies that have come out.
Well, I mean,
because there's no creative control for Marvel at all.
Right. Well, have you been to Giant Tiger?
Yep.
Okay. They've got I went in there one time and it says all I saw was Maple Leaf stuff. Now, is this high quality stuff? Is this NHL quality? No, but they sold the rights to it, right? They sold it to someone to make this stuff, so obviously they're paying a licensing fee. So if you're selling the fee and you don't have a quality control to say stipulate in the contract, you can use Spider-Man if there's a couple of guidelines that you have to follow.
Yeah.
Now, I'm assuming because they only dealt with comics, they didn't deal with film, so they didn't know hide nor hair and just kind of trusted them to say, yeah, you guys, you do this for a living. You guys are a big company. You guys know what you're doing. Here you go.
Yep.
And
that's pretty much what they did. That's a very good description.
Okay.
What happens because of those contracts that were, those licensing contracts from, ages ago, what Marvel Studios brokered with the movie for you. You finance it. I don't know what the division of who pays for what, but
Hold it.
Marvel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, okay, you're just talking Marvel and Sony. You're not talking Marvel. You're not talking Sony, Disney, and Marvel, are you?
Well, Disney gives the right, the movie rights. Like Disney owns Marvel, right?
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So
Okay. That makes a big difference. Okay.
Yeah, I'm interchanging Disney and Marvel quite a bit, but Marvel Studios is owned by Disney, and Disney lets Marvel do whatever the hell they want with their films
Right.
because they've proven themselves. Disney owns Marvel, period, like Marvel Comics. I think they own Marvel Comics too.
When did this takeover take place?
Sometime within the last 10 years. Because Marvel Studios was so it's actually probably less than that. Marvel Studios, they branched off on their own. They're an independent studio.
I thought they had, there's a Marvel Studio, so why would you get Sony to?
Well, hang on. So I'll go through the history here.
Okay.
So Marvel Studios started in and around, when Iron Man was made.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first movie they made, but they didn't have the ability to distribute the film, so they actually worked a deal on distribution, because otherwise you can't get your movie in theaters. You can make the movie, but you got no way of getting it out.
Oh, like,
so they worked to distribute. Sorry, like what?
Oh, no, I was going to say like Walter White on Breaking Bad. I mean, he needed distribution, right? He had the product, he just couldn't get it out there. So now you have to farm out this other work to do the other stuff. Yeah. Okay, I get you.
So eventually, Marvel proved themselves in Iron Man. They put out Iron Man. They put out the Incredible Hulk. They put out Captain America, and I think Thor was already in production at that point. So basically, the first, the main characters from Marvel,
right?
They all had their first films out or in production, and then Marvel came in, or Disney came in and said, "Look, we want to buy you." So the purchase happened, and then all of a sudden, Disney can handle their own distribution.
Right.
So now Marvel has a direct arm for distribution. They said, "Look, you guys make some good films. Everything matches the criteria Disney has, which is very strict criteria.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and make your movies. We'll finance everything. We'll distribute the movies, and everyone's happy."
There you go. All in a neat little.
So that happened. Yeah. So anyway, all along this time, Fox was making X-Men movies. Sony was making Spider-Man movies, and Universal was supposed to be making movies. They made like the Hulk movie, the first one. So, those rights were still belong to those movie studios. So some stuff, if they don't make a movie every 3 or 4 years, reverts back to the owner. That's how the licensing deals work. So if they hadn't made a Spider-Man movie in 10 years, the rights would have gone back to Marvel.
Okay, it went back to Marvel, who is owned by Disney, and Disney can make
Correct,
their own movies and distribution also.
Right. But Sony kept making movies, so the rights never reverted back. As long as they keep making movies, the rights won't go back. That's the way the deal works.
So good or bad, a movie's coming out near you.
Yeah, whether it's good or exactly. So some of the Spider-Man films were rushed out. They weren't as good as they should have been.
No.
So anyway, the idea is that Marvel did not want to wait to get the rights back to Spider-Man. They were planning this whole big thing with called Civil War, and then they were going to do the Infinity Gauntlet. They had plans they were wanting to execute on, and they really wanted Spider-Man as part of all of that.
Right.
So I don't know who it was. I think it was the directors for Captain America. They contacted Sony, said, "Hey, look, is there anything we can do with Spider-Man? Is there any deal we can work where we can borrow the character?" Then Kevin Feige got involved. He's the guy that runs Marvel Studios. And they brokered a deal. Look, you can use Spider-Man. Spider-Man is ours, but you can use him in your films. So Spider-Man showed up in the Captain America movie, even though he didn't belong to Marvel yet.
Right.
And that was the agreement they had. So then, based on that, they kind of started working together, saying, okay, well, what if we help you out in your Spider-Man movies? That's what Marvel said. How about we help you make those movies? So they worked out a deal where all the licensing, not all the licensing, sorry, all the toys, the T-shirts, all the swag, all that stuff,
Yep.
all the merchandising would belong to Marvel, which is Disney.
Right.
And all the movie money would be kept by
Sony.
Sony.
Right.
But Marvel would help them make the movies.
Now,
So that's what happened for the last two films.
okay, and it was fine. They said, yeah, sure, you guys can help make the movie. So there was no problem. So the problem.
Disney. So Disney was making. I don't know if it was the last two films, but on the last film for sure, Disney got a 5% cut of the profits of the film and all the merchandising.
Wow.
So that was the deal they had. So when the first, two Spider-Man movies ago, when that came out, there was Spider-Man fatigue. Nobody wants to see Spider-Man anymore. This is the third time it had been rebooted in like 10 years or whatever it was.
Right.
No one really wanted to see a Spider-Man movie, but somehow Marvel made a film that was so good that people still went to see the movie. Now, it wasn't $1 billion movie or anything, but it still was it made 800 million. Nothing is, not bad.
Right.
Not bad for a film that nobody apparently wanted to see come back.
Okay, but was
and
it good?
It was phenomenal.
Well, there you go. Word of
It
mouth.
was incredibly good. And then the last one that just came out like just weeks ago, or maybe a month and a half ago, or whatever, that one was even better, and it broke $1 billion at the box office.
And this was an actual Spider-Man movie.
This was a Spider-Man movie that that Sony financed and Marvel made, and 95% of the grosses of the box office went to Sony. So now, what's happening? So there's a bunch of back and forth. Apparently, negotiations have fallen apart between the two studios, and if they make another movie, Marvel is not going to be involved at all, and Sony is not going to let Spider-Man be used in any of the other Marvel movies. So you can't see him showing up in the Avengers or Captain America or anything. He's not going to show up anywhere.
So they're holding him as hostage, is what they're doing.
Yeah, but I mean, they can go make movies all day long because they still have the rights, right? Sony can.
Yeah.
But Marvel's been leaning on Spider-Man a lot to help push their own franchises. A nice guest appearance by Spider-Man in a Captain America movie.
Right.
Suddenly, Captain America is $1 billion earner, and it wasn't that big an earner before that.
Yeah, they want a piece of the pie.
Yeah. So anyway, basically, what Disney said, look, if we're going to make another film together, we want 50% of the gross of the film. No more 5%. We want 50. And Sony said no. So that's what everyone's talking about. Some people are jumping on the bandwagon, saying, Sony, they're an idiot. Why are they doing this? They should just give Disney whatever they want. But there's another side of it saying, well, why should you give up? You're giving up all your merchandising rights to Marvel, which, merchandising makes probably, at least double the box office or more. Like with Star Wars makes, you might make $1 billion on the movie, but you'll make, $3 to $4 billion on merchandising.
Right.
It's more lucrative on the merchandising end of things for sure.
Wow.
So Marvel already has that, or Disney, their owner, has that already. So, but my the thing that's not really getting talked about so much, because everyone's looking at, their negotiations broke down, Sony's being greedy, we're going to lose Spider-Man. Like, so boycott Sony films from here on out. Like, there's a boycott thing that started.
Well, hold on. Why would they? Okay, so what's basically happening is I've sold a license for merchandise. Say the Jets, right? Say I sold merchandise the Jets. Now the merchandise has just gone through the roof. Okay, the what is it? The royalties they get, I don't know if it's per shirt or per, like especially with the movies, like the royalties they come.
Yeah.
How do they come? Like, did they already negotiate that in advance? If they negotiated that in advance, that's what they negotiated. That's what they get. It's no different than you go to the lawyer and you get something drawn up. It's legal. It's binding. That's what they signed. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, they made a bad deal. Marvel made a bad deal back in the day.
You know what? We're doing better with your character than you did, and why are we getting penalized for it, right?
Yep.
So that's my take on it. I can't see why you would, unless if you're strapped and, the times are tough and you have to start doing some deals and stuff, you do them.
Which is what Marvel did back in the day.
Yeah, and now you have to go through with it. I mean, you buy a house, you buy a mortgage, you buy a vehicle, the same thing. You sign a contract, you got to go through with it. You got to go through the whole thing. You can't just go halfway through. I don't feel like paying for my vehicle anymore or my house, so fuck. I think we'll just renegotiate and I want like 0.0003% from my mortgage because because you bankers made billions of dollars last year. It's like, what? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, you wouldn't get very far with that.
It makes just as much sense to me between Sony and Marvel and Disney together. But now that they have Disney, then it's a whole different ballgame. But you've already sold off the rights, so I mean it's kind of the close the barn door after all the animals have left type thing.
Yep. They knew you'd have a nice perspective.
Well,
I kind of feel the same way too, though. Like, it's kind of like, well, would I like Spider-Man to be in the Marvel universe, Marvel Cinematic Universe with Marvel Studios? Sure, but a deal's a deal.
Yeah.
So
it's the fans that take the hit. But mind you, if they're doing well with the character, the consumer's not getting hit. It's the studio that's getting hit. It's got nothing to do with us, really. I mean, we don't really have a say in it. Of course, everyone has opinions, right? And everyone's going to put one down or the other one down for whatever reason they come up with.
Well, here's the interesting thing, right? So when Marvel Studios opens, they're like, okay, well, we licensed all our biggest characters. We don't have any big characters left. So they took Iron Man, who was like a D-list character. We'll say B-list character. Just I don't want to insult the guy too much. But Iron Man was never a big deal before the movie came out. He always struggled with his own comic book. The sales were never awesome. It was just, he wasn't a great character. They weren't top 10 characters.
It was kind of a filler character that kind of rose up.
Yeah, like, their big ones were Spider-Man and Hulk, so they licensed those out. So they didn't have that. Fantastic Four was another one. Well, they licensed that one out. X-Men was the other one. Well, they licensed that out. Every big character they had, they're the first ones that they licensed out. So when it comes around, like, hey, we got a movie studio now, and now we want to make movies with our characters, but we only have the third stringers left. They actually had to make a good film with characters that were not as popular and make them popular, which is exactly what they did. So they don't need a Spider-Man. They don't need the A-list characters. They don't. As long as you make a good freaking movie with a great story, great characterization, solid direction in the film, you don't need those A-list characters. They've proven their brand. They've proven they make good movies.
Yeah. I mean,
that's it.
Every character has its time and in the limelight, and there should be a time where they're kind of semi-retired. But with this licensing thing, it's all about money. I mean, they wouldn't do that. It wouldn't be feasible for their pocketbook. But these movies now, is it just Spider-Man that's been licensed this way, or all the characters? Because you're saying they only have like B-list left, so that means that no one can use all these original players until they stop making movies for a couple of years?
That's pretty much how all those contracts work. Yeah.
Okay. So eventually they may get them back, but for now they just have to go. So in the meantime, while they're licensed out, they can't use it themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically.
Well, yeah, I can see why, but I don't know. I guess it's a different animal. It's like I say when you're doing like jet ski and stuff. You don't just buy it from one place. You can get it from a whole bunch of places.
Well, sure.
But with the movies, I
But
guess.
but those negotiate things like a Tim Hortons franchise, for example. If you're paying into that franchise, you have a set of ethics, rules, all that sort of stuff that you have to follow. But Marvel kind of just let them kind of like they made a shitty deal, and now they're now they're living with it. But Disney's got a lot of freaking money and a lot of weight and a lot of pull and a lot of influence. They're going to try to get their property back because they know they can make, minimum $1.2 billion per Spider-Man film. But the other thing too, part of the contract is it's not just a contract for Spider-Man. It's a contract for Spider-Man and all the characters that interact with him. So that's all of the villains, he's sidekicks or whatever. There's the Spider-Man side of the equation. I don't know what the number is, but someone threw out the number that there's 900 characters tied into the Spider-Man side of comic books. And that contract for Spider-Man includes all of that. That means Marvel can't use a single one of those characters.
Okay.
So it's not just one character. It's Spider-Man and
company.
The comics of Spider-Man, right?
Okay.
Everything included in there. J. Jonah Jameson they can't use.
Oh, in the Spider-Man series, yeah. They could make a spin-off.
Yeah. So if Marvel decides to have the Daily Bugle in one of their films reporting on something, they can't. Only Sony can.
Now, how about the characters that were in the movies? Or those have probably been at least licensed out too, like Octopus Man and was it?
Those are the 900 characters. That's part of the 900 characters. That's part of the Spider-Man universe.
Okay, who owns Wonder Woman?
Well, that's DC. That's a whole other thing.
Oh,
but DC.
Aquaman. Who owns that one?
Yeah, that's DC.
Oh, okay. But
with DC Comics, all of the properties for DC, like Warner Brothers owns DC Comics, so only Warner Brothers makes DC films. End of story. Done.
Oh, okay. So it's pretty straightforward. They haven't gone to the point where they've had to sell off,
nope,
some of their stuff.
Not at all. Not at all.
Wow.
So yeah, DC's in a different. They have all their characters. They can do whatever they want with them.
Okay, so who are all the B-list characters? Okay, so you had Iron Man, right?
Iron Man, Captain America, Thor.
Yeah, and those are
Hawkeye, Black Widow. I mean, those are not A-listers.
No, but like you said, Disney has enough money and the backing to bring these characters to the forefront.
Yes, which they did. Iron Man is now like one of the top heroes at Marvel Comics. He wasn't, before Iron Man 1 came out, that's for sure.
Well, with the CGI and everything coming out, that was the best time to bring it out. So you could actually, you could actually bring the character to life. But prior to that, I mean, if you have like shoestrings and pulleys and stuff, I mean, they ain't going to cut it when it comes to Iron Man, unless, then you would probably stay as a B-list character. But once they blew him up and went, oh, wow, where did this guy come from? Then everyone's kind of interested.
Yeah, so they rejuvenated the comic side of things too, because I think the comic side is profitable again.
Oh yeah, it's like your merchandise. I mean, everything's back up and running again. You'll probably see them at McDonald's for their Happy Meal toys again. if they even have that anymore. What's a Happy Meal now? Is it like a full meat or something, or I don't know?
100% beef. So anyway, this was an interesting take. I mean, they made bad business, they made some bad decisions, and this is this is what happens. But the other thing too is here's the thing that came up is part of the deal was Disney said, look, if Kevin Feige, who's the mastermind of Marvel Studios, if we're going to lend him to your company, which we don't own your IP yet. We didn't get your IP back yet.
Right.
But what Marvel was doing is, look, we're gonna lend Kevin Feige to Sony to go make some Spider-Man films, of which they make no money off of. And we're spreading him thin. He's got all the movies on the Marvel side to take care of, and now we're lending him for free over to Sony, of which we don't even own the IP. They said, "Look, we don't want you doing those movies anymore. If we're gonna spread you thin and get you to work on those films, then we want more money."
Now that wasn't part of the contract originally, was it? To lend him out. This was
it was. That was part of the contract.
Oh, part of the contract. Okay. I was going to say,
so they
why
said,
would
"Look,
you do
we
that?
want you."
Then you'd want a cut.
Because the other half of the thing is, so Robert Downey Jr. is out, Chris Evans is out, so they're losing a lot of the ones that started the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Their contracts are all expired now. So now it's all newer heroes, newer characters. They have to establish these newer characters and build them up from the ground up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They need Kevin Feige to do that, to make these C and D listers A-listers. So they need him to spend way more time on the Marvel Cinematic Universe side. We can't afford to lend him out. He's got a lot of work on his plate. And if we're going to, lend him out to Sony for free, for nothing, it's not worth our time. Look, we can't share him anymore. Go make your Spider-Man films. If you want Kevin involved, then you're going to have to pay up. Which makes sense, right?
Well, yeah, but is that what they agreed to? Is that what they agreed to at the beginning? I mean, is there...
No,
this is
I
an
think
after
they
the fact.
negotiated, I think they negotiated 1 or 2 films, and that was it.
Oh, okay.
So now it's back to renegotiation again, right?
Oh, yeah, then for sure. I mean, if he's making a killing, helping them with these movies, then yes, it should be stipulated in the future for whatever movies, if he's involved in it. I mean, they should get a cut, and he should get a cut. I mean, he's the big guy who's making these movies. He should be getting.
Oh, he's well paid. Trust me.
I hope. I mean, Sony and Disney. I mean, they all have money, but the person who actually made the movie, are they getting paid a salary? But yeah, if they're getting paid a good chunk, then it's all good.
So the actors, everyone is paid well. That's one thing that they do is okay, look, we're not going to pay you a lot up front.
Mm-hmm.
But we pay for loyalty. So if you stick around,
in the back end,
if you're going to sign for 6 movies, then you are going to get paid properly. So they've all been paid. Everyone's been paid very, very well.
Right.
There's no doubt about that. That's not the issue. But they pay for loyalty. Stick around with us, help us work the franchise. Go do the red carpet everywhere. Go promote the film. If you do all the things that we ask of you, you will be compensated. And they've followed through on that.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they all rub elbows.
Oh yeah, $20 million a film. Nothing wrong with that.
No, that's a lot of money. Is a lot of power too. So.
Yep. But anyway, that's our analysis of that. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okie doke.
Awesome. Thanks for this, Todd.
Oh, no problem. It's fun.
Okay.
Talk to you later.
See you on the flip side.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.